The season of harvest is finally upon us, and whether it be in the form of Makar Sankranti in the north or Onam and Ugadi in the south, we the people of India celebrate the fruits of our labor with absolute pomp and grandeur. And it is to experience one such festival that I, along with a couple of my friends, have come to the southern state of Tamil Nadu. Join me as we take a deep dive into the customs, festivities, traditions and everything else that goes into the 4-day-long festival of harvest that is Pongal, leading all the way up to the main event, the reason that we're really here, the epic sport of Jallikattu.
But first, what really is Pongal? This dish, prepared from the newly harvested rice, boiled with jaggery, cashew nuts and other ingredients, is called Pongal and is what the festival is named after. Pongal in Tamil literally means to boil over and is symbolic of abundant happiness and agricultural produce overflowing the brim.
And it is with this ceremonial dish that our journey began. On our way to the city of Madurai, where the Jallikattu events were to take place the next day, lies a tiny little village nestled in the hills. We were lucky enough to join the people of this village as they prepared Pongal and offered it to God in thanksgiving. After offering some prayers of our own too, it was time to head on with our journey. As we made our way down the winding roads of this hill station, we were absolutely mesmerized by how beautiful this place was. I mean, naturally, when we see a serene looking lake by the side of the road, we just had to stop for some pictures. Right? So for the next 2 minutes of the video, I'm gonna be a little selfish and show you everything we experienced on our way down. Fair warning though, if you're here specifically to see Jallikattu and by extension the city of Madurai and don't want to see a bunch of city dwellers running around the jungle struggling to get some good shots for Instagram, please skip forward by about 2 minutes. You know, these hills have so many pretty things to see scattered all around that we kept getting lost on our way down. And we probably would have stayed lost if it wasn't for these little ones. But honestly, we didn't mind getting lost. How could you, with views like these? We neared the foot of the hills, we made one last halt to really try and soak in the vibe of this village one last time, and to take some pictures of course. With this roller coaster of a ride from a sense of peace to the sense of contentment now concluded, it was time to leave these hills and its tranquility and carry on with our journey towards the hustle and bustle of the city. But first, with a view like this, how could we possibly resist a cup of tea? Alright, that was our last halt, I promise. From here on out, we hit the gas and booked it for the city. Because we were tired. I mean, look at us. So let's just cut to Madurai in 3, 2. As one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities in the world, with origins dating back to more than 2000 years, Madurai has been the seat of Tamil literature, culture, learning, politics and religion. Maybe that's why the city is also referred to as Tunga Nagaram, meaning the city which never sleeps. And this city is definitely not sleeping tonight as it prepares for the big event tomorrow. Speaking of sleep, the sun was setting fast, and by the time we reached the commercial center of the city, we were absolutely famished. So of course, we dove straight into the local street food scene. Madurai is known as the street food capital of the south, and as I said earlier, considering the fact that this city's been thriving for over 2 millennia, it should come as no surprise that its people have developed a rich and delicious food culture with some pretty unique ways of preparation. As the night went on, our anticipation and excitement for the day to come was at an all-time high, and from the looks of it, these VIPs coming in are pumped up too. Anyways, all that's left to do now is to find a place for us to rest and refresh ourselves for the big day tomorrow. This is the river Vaigai, which runs through the middle of the city, dividing Madurai into two almost equal halves. And on the southern bank of this river is the Meenakshi Amman Temple, the theological and cultural center of this ancient temple city. Its magnificent structures exhibiting its strong patronage for arts and ancient wisdom, often described in historic records as the Sangam of scholars, literally the place where intellectuals have been congregating for the past 2500 years. But this temple is also the economic center of the city. The goods and services for the tens of thousands of visitors the temple receives forming a significant part of the local economy, making this temple quite literally the heart of the city. After starting out our day offering prayers to God, it was time to finally head over to the Jallikattu events. And while these events are conducted all over the state, the ones held in the towns of Avaniyapuram, Palmeda and Alanganallur in Madurai district are some of the grandest, attracting thousands of spectators that descend upon it, along with, of course, the participants and the bull owners coming in from various districts in the state and from other states in India like Karnataka and Andhra, and even from as far away as Sri Lanka. So before we went any further, we just had to find out more about the real stars of this show. There are two types of cattle species in the world, Bos indicus and Bos taurus. Bos indicus is native to India and have humps on their backs, while Bos taurus comes mainly from Europe and are humpless. Celebratory events like Jallikattu are held post-harvest all over India, showcasing our native cattle breeds, be it Kambala water racing in Dakshin Kannada or Belgada Shariat in Maharashtra. Kangayam, Pulikulam, Umlashari and Bargor are among the most favoured breeds for Jallikattu. These breeds are more resilient to heat and less prone to disease than their western counterparts. But most of all, they're very, very strong. And it is to see this strength pit against the strength of men that thousands of spectators throng the village grounds, jostling for space at the makeshift galleries, trying to catch a glimpse of the sport. But the massive scale of the main three Jallikattu events of Tamil Nadu can be understood by the fact that just in Avaniyapuram, where we are at right now, over 900 bulls and over 400 participants were registered to partake in the sport. Similar numbers were registered in the venues in Palameda and Alanganallur as well. So even with over 5,000 police, fire tenders and medical personnel deployed statewide, sometimes things don't go according to plan. Let me give you a bit of context. After each bull completes its turn in the arena, they are directed to a barricaded collection area where their owners along with other herders are supposed to rope in these bulls. The problem is, some of them break free and make a run for it. And once they are out in the open, without the watchful eyes of authorities, miscreants in the crowd get free rein to hound the bull under the guise of taming it, On top of that, when you have some men resorting to alcohol and sharp objects in order to enrage the bull for the sport, all hell breaks loose. Between 2008 and 2014, 43 humans and 4 bulls were killed in the Jallikattu events. In 2014, following complaints filed by animal welfare organizations, the Supreme Court banned the sport of Jallikattu. This in turn caused massive protests to erupt across Tamil Nadu, with millions of people taking to the streets in Madurai, Coimbatore, Cuddalore, Kanchipuram and other locations. Chennai though witnessing the largest protest of them all in a 15-day long agitation against the ban on Jallikattu. In the wake of these protests, the Tamil Nadu state government hastily passed an amendment allowing Jallikattu to resume. And so, it's back, and it's bigger than ever before. With that, the stage is set for the epic showdown between man and beast. And I, for one, cannot wait for it to finally start. Traditionally, gold coins wrapped in a piece of cloth were tied to the horns of a bull, and the tackler had to grab onto its hump and untie the knot without falling off to win the prize. That's where the word Jallikattu is derived from. Salikas meaning coins and cut meaning package. In the modern day version of the sport, if the bull tamer holds onto the hump of the bull for a distance of around 20 to 30 meters without falling off, he wins a prize. If the bull manages to foil the tamer's attempt to hold on to it, the bull wins and its owner gets a prize. These prizes can range from gold, silver, cars, bikes, furniture and home appliances. If you can manage to take them home in one piece, that is. A couple of other rules are that the players are not allowed to grab onto the horns and tails of the bulls, and that multiple players cannot attempt to tame the bulls simultaneously. Around 50 bulls are released per hour through the gate. Some of these bulls time their exits perfectly, some just blow past these players, rocking their worlds and sometimes their own. Some get aggressive as they try to escape, and then the most dangerous of them all, the ones that stand and fight. What do you think the people around me would say if you asked them what Jallikattu really meant to them? Some might tell you it's a tradition practiced since time immemorial to judge the valor and strength of a man, a grand display of bravery and physical prowess, Jallikattu or Veera Vilayat, sport of the warriors. For some, it's about recognition and pride, for themselves and for the communities they belong to. It's about celebration and thanksgiving. It might even be about the gifts up for grabs. But the most important reason is almost hidden in plain sight. Stud bulls reared specifically for Jallikattu are intelligent, swift and agile, aggressive, and as I said earlier, extremely strong. Spectators make a note of the best bulls on display and seek them out in cattle markets organized right after these events. These bulls are used for breeding, ensuring vigorous male progeny, while female calves grow up to produce superior milk to the rest. With their pedigrees established in Jallikattu, the prices of undefeated bulls would go upwards of 5 lakhs. But after the ban was imposed, sale prices of these breeds plummeted to an all-time low. With imported breeds producing higher quantities of milk and with the adoption of artificial insemination methods for breeding, farmers were left with no incentives to hold on to their bulls. And believe me when I say this, these bulls are the pride and joy of these farmers' lives. But for a farmer that earns barely 500 rupees a day and spends about 200 rupees of that on their bull every day, making a living with only what's left. It got extremely difficult for these farmers to sustain themselves. And with the farming process becoming largely mechanized, the usage of draught animals has decreased drastically, leaving livestock keepers with no choice but to send their bulls off to slaughter within the beef industry. On top of that, during the time of the ban on Jallikattu, Tamil Nadu had received the worst northeast monsoon in 140 years, forcing desperate farmers in the drought-ravaged countryside to sell their cattle, many believing that ever since the ban on Jallikattu, the wrath of the gods had been upon them. There were 130 or so cattle breeds in India just a century ago, and now there are only 37. 6 of them belonging to Tamil Nadu, out of which over the last 15 years, one, the Alambadi breed, has gone extinct. The Pulikulam breed, the ones most widely used in Jallikattu, originate from Pulikulam village in Sivagangai district. It is said that this village derived its name Pulikulam or Tiger Pond a few centuries back because of the presence of tigers in the dense forests that frequented the pond to quench their thirst. It is said that the bulls of the village were capable of fighting ferociously with the tigers. The Pulikulam's population of around 90,000 in 1995 has come down drastically to about 16,000 in recent years. The same is true for all the other native breeds as well. So yes, the farmers are fighting for their culture and traditions, but most of all, they're fighting for the lives of these bulls. But it wasn't just the farmers that showed up to protest the ban on Jallikattu. Tamilians from all walks of life, the men, the women, the old and the young. People across varied occupations from every caste, class and religion, and from every corner of the world. People showed up and they were making their voices heard. Jallikattu had now become the symbol of a resurgent Tamil identity, the protests becoming the fulcrum of discussions on culture, tradition, modernity and regional identity. Tamil Nadu was urbanizing fast, but with this growth came a sense of alienation and rootlessness. And so Jallikattu became the rallying cry for Tamils to return to their traditions, their roots. For in this polarized modern world, it was these traditions that united them as one. Personally, I feel the ban's been a blessing in disguise because it allowed for a compromise between the two sides of the Jallikattu debate. These events are now organized with proper regulations, with restrictions being imposed for the safe and smooth conduct of the sport. Insurance and medical checkups were made mandatory for both the bull tamers and the bulls. Ironically, a sport that was confined to a very small belt in rural Tamil Nadu before the ban was now the ultimate representation of what it meant to be Tamil.